Hello, everyone. This is Marlene Motivates, and my co host today is Lisa J. Stocks. Welcome, Lisa.
Hey, Marlene, thanks for having me on.
Yes, it's been a long time coming. So much things happened, but hopefully, we're back on the regular routine. Um, but I want to say thank you to Lisa for being here. And Lisa, tell them a little bit about your channel.
Well, I've had my YouTube channel now for 3 years, and I've been sharing my financial journey, very focused on investing, planning for retirement, investing for your kids. But overall, the theme is just to build wealth, stay out of debt, and become financially sound when it comes to all aspects of your financial life.
Yes, exactly. And today I wanted to do this conversation about having ourselves together as we age. Like, are you planned? Are you prepared for living X amount of years? Because one thing I will say, Lisa, is that I never really thought about how long I'm going to live until I start. There's people now who are centurions, like people haven't really planned for that. Like, are you prepared to financially take care of yourself till you live to 100 years old?
Is that a question or a statement to the
No, it was
people?
it was a question.
Okay, am I? Not yet, but I want to get there. And I was recently in an interview with someone, and it's something we no one knows. No one knows how long we're going to be here, but statistically in America, it's getting close to the point where 1 in 4 people are living past age 90. And so I don't want to just sit by and assume, that I only need to plan for 5 years of retirement or 10 years of retirement. Some people are taking on that attitude of, what I don't, who knows how long we're going to be here. They want to live for today and not worry about tomorrow. But I'm not there yet, but I'm trying, and I'm trying to do the best that I can to be prepared for the unknown.
Yeah. And I feel that that's what it really is the unknown, having yourself ready for the unknown. And one of those unknown things, and the first thing that I wanted to talk about was, are you prepared for if you need extra care, like a caregiver, a home health aide, or someone to come and pick you up for visits to specialty doctors? Because as we age, there's a lot of unexpected expenses that you're not thinking about. And I feel like this is something that we really need to be wrapping our minds around. What are some of the things that we may need that won't be covered by whatever? It won't be covered by your insurance. It won't be covered by your Medicare or other things. Having ourselves prepared for the unknowns is something that I think is so important. You want to add something, Lisa?
I totally agree. And even, I just was pulling up the calculator because just in case I want to give an actual number, but you got to think even some co-pays or prescriptions, that's $200 a month, for example. That's going to be $2,400 a year. Now, multiply that over 15 years, and we're really, as these numbers grow, just like with the charts when it comes to investing, when you zoom out, you have to think bigger. And so you have to just have a mindset of be over prepared and realize that if you want to keep your own standard of life, if you want to be choosing what your standard of living is, without having to sell your car and your home and be living in state subsidized housing, and go to
Mhm.
those type of things, you have to make a plan that allows you to hopefully live as long as possible without having to resort to something like that.
Wow. That's a really big statement. These are very eye-opening and intriguing, and like what you just said, Lisa, so many people are only focused on the here and now, like, okay, live for today type of attitude, which, I can understand because you do need to be thinking about today and what you need. But what about the older you? What can you think that you may need in the future? Like, those are some of the things that I wasn't prepared for that growing up. And I didn't have those sort of conversations growing up, planning for the here and now. It was just focus on making sure you have what you need today and in wisdom, so that you later on don't suffer. We need to be thinking about these things.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So I actually just lost a family member this week,
Oh,
65 years old.
my
And I was talking,
condolences.
thank you. And I was talking to a cousin more my age, and it's like, wow, like this cousin that we lost is younger than all of our living parents. And in the interview that I just mentioned that I was in, where the person was kind of like, I don't know, who you're planning for the unknown. I don't know if I'm going to even be around to use that money. Some people have that kind of say things like that. And I shared with the person, my father was no longer with us at age 56, my aunt at 41, my grandmother and one of my grandmothers in the mid 60s, just like my cousin. But I also have other relatives. I had my grandfather's sister, for example, 100 years old. So we don't know. We don't know, but all I can do is take on the mindset of be prepared and hopefully be prepared to take care of myself and still potentially be able to leave a legacy behind for my family.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important thing that you just said, is like, okay, say for instance, if you're married, most people who are married, or you cohabitate, your partner, significant other, when you think about it, you think about aging together, like growing old together and all those things, but life doesn't always show up in that way. Like, unknown things happen, like I always say, I never want to speak that over anybody's life, but we have to be realistic.
Yes, definitely. I recently had an older Uber driver, which I felt totally safe with her, but she shared that she had just got back to doing Uber full time after putting her husband into a facility because she no longer could handle taking care of him on her own at home. So, yeah, you just never know. You assume that you're gonna be together, living together, but she had to make that choice.
Mhm. You never think that that's going to be your situation. And one of the things that I saw, having my parents grow older together, you think about, taking care of your parents, but you don't think if one may need extra care, like going into a facility, rehab, certain things, not those things aren't covered from insurance or Medicare. Those are out of pocket, expenses that I never thought about and my parents didn't think about. And what happens is your relatives or loved ones have to try to scramble to put together to have the money for these extra things that you need. But having those sinking funds, and having certain accounts available for you to be able to go into for the emergencies and for the what ifs, the rainy day funds, you'll be prepared.
Yes, yes. That's why I was touching on with when I was talking earlier about When you don't have a plan, a long-term plan, or, you're living longer and longer, that's when you have to resort to potentially selling your family home and all of your assets in order to get additional, aid to help you. I've seen it happen before.
Mm. And it's a very uncomfortable situation, because I have been in it, my whole family, not just, I shouldn't say I have been in it. My whole family has been in it where everybody is having to really overextend themselves because of, I wouldn't say poor planning, but being ignorant of things. Like you said, only thinking about today. You need to be thinking, how can I take care of the older me? What will the older me need? And start putting money away. And even if you can only do a little bit, but it's the attempt, the trying to do something, and not just being ignorant and saying, "Oh, I don't know if I'm not gonna live that long, and how do I know?" The thing that we want is to have and not have to ask and beg other people to help us.
Yeah, yeah, and these are conversations that families are probably not even having. They're living for today, and I often say, like, of course, if you want to contribute towards your child's education, their wedding, even sweet 16s, they spend there's so much spending going on, but are there conversations as to, mom and dad are not focusing on their retirement because we're doing so much today. Are you going to be there for us, to take care of us in our older age? People are not thinking about that. And yeah, that's a conversation that's not going to happen most likely in most households. So what I'm saying is people need to kind of dial it back or have those conversations so that you are really focusing on your retirement plan. Things are gotten so expensive even 10 years ago. If you and I were to project what our food costs and car insurance and some of our key costs were, 10 years into the future, I doubt either one of us would have been correct on it.
Hmm. That's what I'm saying, Lisa, and I'm glad that you brought that. It's the the what ifs, the rainy day, the and we don't know how many rainy days we could have. Maybe it's a short term that you need help for, maybe rehab to help you to walk again, or it may be something that this will be your future, your long term life, being older, that you may need this sort of care for years on end. Are you realistically prepared for that? And I, for one, am a person that I don't like asking other people for help. Everybody who knows me knows that about me. I would
Mhm.
rather go into my own accounts, bail my own self out, or wait or move money around and do what I have to do in order to have what I need. And that's why I want to have this conversation, because more people, and I hope this is not offensive to anybody, but more people who look like us, more melanated people, people of, minorities, need to be thinking and having these.
There's no sound, Marlene. Can you guys in the chat let me know if you're able to hear me, or I'm not able to hear Marlene right now. Okay, okay. Thank you for that, Laura. I'm trying to send Marlene some messages in the back in the private chat, but hopefully she sees that in the main chat too. Okay, so let's hope that Marlene gets back connected with us. But while she's hopefully aware of this issue, I'm going to talk a little bit about. Let me see. About focusing on investing. And as I've been talking about this whole situation, we don't know what to plan for. I totally understand, but I'm just trying to build as much as possible when it comes to my investment accounts for retirement and early retirement for everything that I need. I keep my money in the market because I want it to grow. And just in case no one's ever heard about it, there is a 4% rule when it comes to planning for your investments. A lot of people think, $1 million, a half a million,
Okay.
whatever
Can you
it
hear
is.
me
Oh,
now?
yes, we hear you, Marlene.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Okay.
Continue.
I was just talking about the 4% rule of thinking about what it is that you build up as far as your retirement account, whatever that amount is. And then don't think that you're going to just, if say, for example, if you have $200,000 when you are 67 years old and you're thinking about retirement, $200,000, compare that to what your yearly earnings are. You cannot draw heavily from that. Hopefully, you'd be able to keep that entire amount invested for potentially later in life. I don't want you to have just that amount, but statistically, a lot of people only have, I would say, around that account balance at that age. And so that's why I'm using it for reference. I want us to have significantly more, but to have 250,000, for example, and draw upon it for, potentially 30 years on a monthly basis, that's only going to be about $800 monthly. So you have to like we're trying to build the big picture here. We have to think long term. If you plan on retiring in your 60s and potentially could live to 90 years old, where's your income going to be coming from? Don't think Social Security is going to do it alone. So, Marlene, do you remember what we were talking about before we had that little? Okay.
Yeah. I was just saying that so the majority of us need to be thinking not in terms of today. And I get it because so many of us are thinking in terms of today because things are so expensive and so many people are going through things. We weren't expecting for all of this to happen. And it kind of got a lot of us off track for a little bit. And having to move money around or getting a second income and things like that in order to survive. But for the future, we need to be planning and preparing for things like doing the real research about how much do you need monthly for a caregiver? How much is your home or where you're going to be living, is it wheelchair accessible? These are the sort of conversations that we need to be having and thinking, and not just waiting until it comes upon us. And then what is the saying? You're stuck like Chuck. That's not what we want.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, I know you've already eliminated the mortgage. I need to get on that journey myself. But even my basically, for what my mortgage payment is currently, half of my mortgage payment is taxes and insurance.
Mhm.
So I have to think, even once I get to that point of being mortgage free, it's still a substantial amount going out on a monthly basis or being put aside on a monthly basis for the insurance and taxes. And never mind, there's a snowstorm coming my way right now. I know you're down in some nicer weather than I am. I'm up north. But yeah, then we got to pay for potentially snow removal, and in the summer, lawn care assistance with that. So many things, power washing the house. You have to be, thinking forward thinking as to what you're not going to be able to do in your older years.
Mm-hmm. And oh, go ahead, Lisa. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. I was done.
Okay. And I'm glad that you brought up those things about things that we're not able to do when we get older, because just simple things like taking it for granted, like, am I going to be able to use my hands? Will I be able to walk? Will I be able to, do I need to walk with assistance? Am I going to need myself a caregiver? Or am I going to have people in my family that's going to help me? These are the questions that you need to be asking and putting into in black and white in writing. If this happens to me, I'm not telling everybody what to do, but I have seen it go really south working in the medical field where people have nothing prepared, and then it gets to be relatives all against each other, arguments. No, we're going to put them on a ventilator. No, she wants this. No, she doesn't want that. It becomes a big problem if you have not prepared, and yourself and also your relatives, and having certain things in writing. And on top of that, having a person, as if I can't speak, a person who would be like your POA. It's very important as we age.
Yeah, it's all part of those uncomfortable conversations that people don't want to have. Uh, and including just as basic as, here's my will and this is where it's located and this person is the executor. That even can cause a fight, but better to have the fight now while everyone is coherent and able to, get these things sorted out, because all of these things could be a huge surprise to someone if they don't know ahead of time. And if you don't have anything, specified as to who's going to make those decisions, if you have, a large sibling group or something like that, it could be a bit too much for a larger group of people giving their input as to what should occur.
Yes, and you saying that, Lisa, it's kind of comical to me because I do have a rather large family, and
I remember.
mhm. And I feel like, without divulging too much, because I do respect, my relatives and everything, but just to be on the side of, being satisfied within yourself, knowing that I have planned. I know what I personally want. I know how I want to be taken care of, and it's more than just a matter of the finances as well. It's letting other people know, like, how I want to be cared for, not what they want, not what other people like. And it just turns into a mess, which I have seen so often. It turns into a mess when nobody has written down things, especially if that older person has accounts and um I'm trying to think of tangible properties and investments and things like that. Just for yourself, you need to know what is next, so that it's not going to be any discord, just for that alone, and it will give you so much peace of mind.
Yes, yes. And you can't just think that, like the oldest child in the family should be the one that takes on the responsibility. You have to put some thought into it, because you have to think, who is responsible, who can manage the pressure, who is going to, like you said, if there's properties to be paid for, insurance and different things, different choices to be made as far as a business. Never mind those medical questions and decisions. Who can really handle all of those things? And it may not be, don't just go by, it's my brother or it's my oldest child. They may not be the person that's responsible enough to handle it. So you have to really, dig deep and do what's truly best for your well-being.
Mhm. Yeah, and the thing about it is that sometimes people inherit the storm, the problems of an older loved one because of not having conversations, of not putting things in writing, just because they didn't want to talk about it. And I hear people say that all the time, working in the medical field. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Well, when is the time to talk about it? After everybody, after you pass and everybody's arguing and screaming, and still it doesn't ever work out because there's always going to be people who don't agree with that. But when it's in black and white, nobody can do anything about black and white because you have signed it and say, this is what I want.
Yes, yes, agreed, agreed. But these are those difficult conversations that are just not being had.
Yep. Yep. You're so right. It hasn't been had. And my that I want to ask you and I want to ask the audience, what are some of the reasons why people aren't having these conversations? I want to hear what you think, Lisa, and what some in the chat think, and then I'll come back and share what I think is the problems.
Okay, it just we're still in the same, old-fashioned mindset. If the generations before us weren't doing it, we're the first. We're being the first to have to do it or to be aware enough to see the importance. So that's one obstacle, is that it's just something new. And I think that it's just a touchy topic because we don't want to think that our time is going to end. We all know it, but we just don't want to talk about it. We just don't want to think of mom or grandma or ourselves being gone, but we just don't want to take the time to get prepared for it. We might do a couple of things in the background. Of course, you're contributing to your 401k. You might even have life insurance, but there's more steps to it, just like you've been touching on. A will, someone to be responsible for the medical questions if you are unable to speak for yourselves. There are more steps to it, that there's certain steps that we've been okay with that we most likely are doing, but now it's time that we open our eyes to doing more, even if the previous generations weren't doing it. We've seen in our time so many people having to do GoFundMe and the struggles. And realistically, I think everyone should be aware of what those funeral costs are and what those obstacles can run into for a family. And instead of just running into that issue over and over again, let's make a change. I know my grandfather passed without a will, and my aunt said to everyone in the family, okay, like just like with Maya Angelou, one of my favorite sayings, when you know better, you do better. She said, look what we're going through. Now we've gone through it. We need to, going forward as a family, we've seen what the issues that it leads to. Let's not let this happen again. And so people need to be specified for certain things. Wills need to be in place. And so, that's my feeling.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lisa, for sharing your thoughts, and I am in agreement with it. Some just don't want to talk about it. Some just don't want to do it. Some just they don't care. And like what you just said, that you know it takes a new mindset. I'm very big on speaking about mindset shifting, And even if you didn't see it in your upbringing and your childhood, that doesn't mean that we have to continue to create generational brokenness. It's like I've said, for within myself, I didn't have that, but I want to be the first. I want to be the trendsetter of saying this generational brokenness stops with me. I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to have conversations. I'm going to tell people what I don't like. I'm going to say what my end of life wants and needs are going to be, not having a fight and doing things like before getting off of it on a tangent too long. But you remember that case of Terry Schiavo, and the, and the husband was saying, take them off, and the family was saying put it on, because she didn't have anything in writing. And I feel like that case really made me start thinking, I'm not ready. So it's time to get ready. So anybody who's listening to this, I want you to feel like, don't get overwhelmed with it. Just take one thing at a time until you accomplish everything on your list. But you had great thoughts, Lisa, and I really appreciate them. Let's see what you guys are saying in the comments section. Thank you all so much for being here. Yeah, it gets ugly at funerals. People don't plan for aging. But I think is at the root of it is people are just selfish. And it doesn't sound like a nice thing to say, but if you don't think about your kids, your siblings, and people that you quote unquote love, how much do you love them? Do you love them enough that after you're gone, or after you get older, I even have thought of, what if I cannot make decisions anymore cognitively? I want to have things in place that somebody is going to be my eyes, my ears for me, and will not let me suffer. And when it gets to that point, they'll say, pull the plug. You know what I mean? According to my thoughts, I don't want for other people to be stressed out behind me. And I can't stress enough. I'm not telling you guys to do like what I'm doing or what Lisa is doing, but please do something. I think that's the point of this, is to please do something.
Yes, yes, definitely. I can't tell you, everyone's circumstances are different. I was just saying, between what state we live in, where we're at with, as far as our housing costs, everything is different. Our education level, our earnings, I can't compare myself to anyone in this chat. I cannot compare myself to you, Marlene. We're all have different circumstances. And so that number is going to be different for all of us. But what I'm doing is to just strive to do the best that I possibly can, as far as planning, being realistic, getting in tune with how much my Social Security will be, any pensions that I have, and just try to invest as much as possible, and make sure that my investment accounts are, the performance is in line. Have goals and standards for what you're trying to achieve. If you don't have a goal, then what are you working towards? If you're investing and not being on top of the performance, you could be leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table. And trust me, when I think about how much I spend on a day to day, I know that I need to be making my money maximize every last dollar.
Exactly, Lisa. Maximizing. Um, Always has a comment here. My living will, uh, my living video. It has been written on already. Been to probate court. All my homes are homesteads. That's awesome. Always, I'm so happy for you. I love to hear that the ones that are getting themselves together, but also the ones that have not yet, this is not a personal attack. There's no judgment over here. I'm just trying to bring awareness and get you thinking, what can I do first? What's the first step? How much does X, Y, and Z cost? And then taking care of things one at a time. But one thing that we can do that I know for sure does not cost a lot of money is, at least if you only do one thing, at least you could have a written will.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah, agree with that. Charlene says, I believe some people just don't want to come to that realization that, uh, I can't say that word, unaliving will happen. And some people feel that if they do pass, that that just cremate me, don't go broke. And some people are just living. Yeah. And that situation gets so sticky. We, just like you said, Lisa, people are, pass away, and it's already the grief aspect happening, and then you got to think about the stress of trying to put together, you know whatever it is, and then people not agreeing, and oh, they don't want that, and this is what they want. It becomes out of control, and the emotions are flying, and people are arguing, when it's just so peaceful when you have things together. You've already created, where the whatever is going to take place, because it's been written down, it's already been paid for, and all people have to do is just show up.
Mhm. Hopefully the family can get to a place of peace because, when these things are announced, they people may not agree with the choices that are being made, but you have to do what's right for the family. So,
Yep.
just my thoughts from my personal experiences.
Hmm. Yeah, I can understand that, Lisa. And
Mhm.
everybody in the chat, I really agree with every single one of you. Charlene says, I pray people just prepare for a better life and keep insurance policies accurate. Mhm.
Oh, that's another thing to touch on, yeah. I'm sure there's been situations where, people are divorced or separated, but things haven't been updated. And not to say that their former spouse is not deserving, but if they've gone on to, depending on the circumstances, it may not be what they currently want. So,
Yeah, because life changes, and people change, and maybe what you wanted 20 or 30 years ago, you may not want right now. And yes, what always says, yes, we are all different, but we all want to survive. That's the common theme. We all want to survive. We want for our needs to be met. We want to be at peace. But those things can't happen if we don't have plans in place, if we don't have conversations, and we don't have things in writing. I can't stress that enough. Having things in writing, we take that for granted. Like, I've heard people say, "Oh, my family knows what I want." All that goes out of the door. Trust me. Being in the medical field all these years, that goes out of the door, because when people are sick or when people pass, people are only thinking about what they personally want to do and what they personally want to give.
and yeah,
Mhm.
verbal is not legally binding. Of they told you just can't say something and it be upheld as being accurate. So.
Yeah. It's very, 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 very stressful. And Charlene says, I have retired from Chicago Police Department with 30 hard years, but I stood the course. Yeah. So right now is your time, and now is everybody's time for us to not say, I didn't know what to do, because for most people, ignorance is bliss. But having these conversations, I know one thing for sure is that we all know we should do better. That's one thing. and then not overwhelming ourselves. And what's also important is not comparing ourselves to other people, because, like what Lisa said, and always, and Charlene and Realist, what we've all agreed is that everybody is in different situations, have different income, different responsibilities. But one thing is, we all want to be treated with dignity as we age. We all want to feel comfortable. We want our needs met. And that can't happen if we don't do what we need to do on our end. And I have to say too, I still have some work to do. I'm not I'm not perfect in this category. I still got a lot of
Mhm.
work to do for some things before it gets to that point. But even another thing, Lisa, that I didn't think about, even before you get to retirement, you never know if you could become disabled before your retirement.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
something that I'm starting to really get myself together. Like, okay, what will I do if I can't move my hands? Who is gonna who's gonna feed me? Who's gonna take care of me? How will my, how will I be taken care of? And I have been so razor focused on retirement that I haven't thought really about, what if something happens to me before that time period? What will I do then?
Mhm. And we have to be
Mhm.
realistic in thinking about this because I believe both, whether it's your Social Security or your disability, the payment that you're going to be receiving is based on your lifetime of earnings. And so, that could be significantly different from person to person. And just the thought of having to live off of less than your paycheck suddenly,
Mhm.
how would you manage?
Yeah.
Because most of us we're allocating every last dollar that's coming in. And I'm not saying that most people, I don't want to say that everyone here is living paycheck to paycheck, but even if you are investing and saving and that is part of your overall finances on a regular basis, everything is going to have to decrease, and at some point something might have to give.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important. And that's why I love getting together with Lisa and having conversations, because every time we do one of these, I get into my notebook and I say, "Oh, that was a good thought that Lisa said," because I'll watch the playback and I'll take notes on some things that I said or somebody in the chat said, and start doing my own homework. And that's what these conversations are for us to really think and be realistic and not just have our heads up in the clouds.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Agreed, agreed.
Yeah. So, Charlene says, I have work to do as well. I am not perfect, but I am still working hard on YouTube and Facebook to get other income. I am grateful, but I'm not settling for a once a month check. Mm. And I feel that a lot of people aren't willing to do that extra work, Lisa. I can't speak for you, but that's my personal opinion. I think a lot of people think that the job is going to do everything. You have to have supplements, a second job or supplemental income. Whether it's your investments, your whatever that you're doing that's going to bring in another stream of income, in order that's going to take care of you when you can no longer go and punch a clock or work your business.
Yes, yes. And something else that we touched on, I think, in a previous live is, there's just so many things that you can realistically be thinking about ahead of time. Like if you have a more physically demanding job, you have to realize that you're not going to have the flexibility of someone who may say, "Oh, I can keep on working up until 70, for example." if you have a physically demanding job, the company, you may physically not be able to do it for that long. It may have taken a toll on your body over, the decades that you've been doing it. So we all need to be realistic and know what lane we're in and
Mhm.
and plan accordingly.
Yeah, and I love that that you said that, Lisa, because since our last conversation, I really have been thinking because the job that I do now is very physically and emotionally demanding. And I'm thinking to myself, I feel like I can't even do this for 5 years. So it's like, how in the world? I look at people when I go to stores and different things, like older people in their 70s and 80s having to stand on their feet or be in pain. You could see the pain on their face, and they're forced into doing these jobs because of one reason or the other. I'm not going to always say it's poor planning. Sometimes it could be that they didn't they had planned to only live to be 75, and here they are at 79 years old and their money has run out.
Yeah, the percentage of people working into their 70s and potentially, even longer. We know statistically how many people in that age range are working, but I don't know how many people want to and how many people have to. And those are the stories that are, that I don't want to be a part of, is that they have to because they just cannot, they want to remain in their home and cannot afford the basic necessities. So,
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, Elisa. And you mentioned that, can you afford to live longer? I think that's what the title that I chose for today. Can you afford to live longer? And I mean, as in longer, I mean, can you afford to live to 100? There's even people living past 100. Can you live to what comes with that? Nurses and caregivers and prescriptions and things that you don't think about. Like right now, you think, oh, I want some from the store. I'll just go and pick it up. How am I going to get my groceries? Who's
yeah.
going to clean my house, cut my
Mhm.
grass, or whatever it is that you do wherever you live? The things that we kind of take for granted, because right now in the current moment you can do that, but what happens when you can no longer do it? That's what I want everybody to start thinking about, those things. What about when I can no longer physically or cognitively do this? Then what's next?
Mhm. And for some, all these things that we're saying are hypothetical because they may not be living through it. But a lot of the things you're saying, I'm living through it. Being a part of that Sandwich generation and all the different aspects. My mother can no longer drive. She can't go down into her basement where her washer and dryer is. And so, like you're saying, is someone in the family going to step up to help, or is someone going to have to be hired to do these things? All of these are financial situations that, you have to decide if you're going to partner with your parents on figuring these things out.
Mhm. And in my family, Lisa, and everybody, me and my siblings, we're all very close in age. So I already know if my oldest sibling is already at the age of retirement. I'm looking like it's not going to be that long for me. Like, am I ready to be where they are? And we're having the conversations about, what about this? Go through hypotheticals. Um, and I know this is not the conversations that we want to have. What will happen if I can't walk? What will happen if whatever, put some things out there and look into things like Aflac and certain things that when you can't do certain things, it will stand in the gap until you can get back on your feet and get the assistance that you need. How much money you need to be like really in crunching numbers. This is how
Mhm.
much I'll get from this. This is what I'll get from that. And now, what am I going to be? What will I have available to fill in between those things?
Yeah, yeah, and I think, like I've been saying, um, we don't know what the number is, but you have to try, and you have to realize, just like you're talking about home health aid coming in, um, I've seen that some what you think would be a reasonable amount for you to get approved for, it
Mhm.
usually isn't. It's not like they're gonna send someone in 3 hours every day. It'll probably be something very insignificant, and you think to yourself like, "Wow, this is barely helpful," or couldn't they, structure this differently? But yeah, I'm saying try your best, but definitely be ready to have to supplement these things because, the coverages are low.
Mhm. Yeah, and working in the medical field, trust me when I tell you, you want to have more allocated in those areas for like home health or supplemental people that will do things around your home, like fix like people who will help to fix things, even simple things like putting up a picture, doing certain things that maybe you can't do anymore, take you around, a driver, things like that. Having those expenses that I can afford 2 times a month to go out, someone will pick me up. You have to start thinking that way. And what about when my hands don't work? Who will bathe me? I know we don't like thinking about this. Like I'm being honest, Lisa. Like my cheeks are flushed pink right now, thinking about somebody having to come in and giving me a bath and
Mhm.
losing our autonomy. Who likes that? Nobody
Yeah,
likes that. I don't want nobody bathing me and caring for me and picking me up. Thinking about I won't be able to drive. I won't be able to. You know what I mean? We
yeah.
need to think about those things.
It's hard, it is hard, and actually, when I was talking about the home health aid, the lack of hours, those are the type of things that were in my mind of you're gonna send someone, 2 or 3 times a week, you might uh, those type of assistance is needed on a more regular basis than that, and then sometimes those aides, they can only do so much. Yes, they can assist with getting cleaned up and things like that, but they can't even administer medication. I run into that issue. Like I will turn up when my grandmother was still at home. And having an aide come in and they're like, oh good, you're here, you can give her her meds, you can put her eye drops in, because they weren't medically qualified to even do that. So, it's just so many things that you have to be ready for, but yeah, a lot of it all ties back to those finances and being able to, like Marlene was saying, rely on yourself, having that account to draw from, and realizing what amount that you need, because you don't wanna be in the situation where you retire late 60s and you can't run through the money in 3 to 5 years, um, 'cause you potentially could be around a whole lot longer.
Mm, yeah. And like you were saying about that home health aid, and say for instance the government gives you 4 visits per month. It's just a hypothetical. Say
Mhm.
you get 4 visits a month. That's really only giving you 1 visit per week, every 7 days. You may need 24-hour care. That's the things that, like, when I start thinking about it in terms like that, what if I'm bed bound? What if I'm whatever. What if I need more than just someone picking up some groceries? What if I need someone to shift my positions, or to, with a medical lift, like a Hoyer lift, get me out of bed into a wheelchair? Trust me, you don't want it. Uh, you don't want it to come to the space where you need help and you're in the position to where you're stuck because you have no money. You don't want to be there. I've seen it, and it's very dark, very lonely, and it makes a lot of people just wish that they were no longer here because of their financial situation. And I don't want that for anybody.
I'm always saying we have to get ready to take care of our older selves. This system is not built to retire us and let us keep on living our lifestyle. It shifted a long time ago. There's no, even if pensions were still in place, even that, for most of us, it wouldn't be enough for us to maintain our lifestyle. So that's been long gone. Most of us are reliant upon what we create through our own 401k or 403b. So take it seriously. Take it seriously. Put in the work. Like I said, have standards, set goals, because you can't just float along and say, yeah, I do that. I have a 401k. You don't even know what you're investing into. You don't know the performance of it. That's not enough. That's not enough. I don't want to hear you just, yeah, I have that at my job. And what are the details behind it? If you don't, I'm not saying you have to share them with me, but do you even know what is going on in your finances? And I don't want there to be any place where you are lacking, leaving money on the table that, we obviously need to take care of our older selves.
Yeah. Yep. I want to read this comment from Wallace that says, I thank God that I've got family members in the medical field that are willing to come to assist me if needed. And always says, we had to put in that step in tub with a lift for my mom. It was hard, but she has her privacy and her self pride. Um, Even thinking about things like that, like, do you live in a two-story home? Now as you get older, how are you going to be able to get up those stairs?
Mhm.
Thinking about, like, I need to be making my home into a home that will take care of me as I get older, like having one of those seats that will take you up the stairs, or having certain things in place that when the time period comes, that you don't suffer. Or I've even seen older people in their homes stuck upstairs and have never been downstairs in their own home for over 30 years because they can't walk down the stairs.
And yeah, trying to inside of my home, there's bedrooms on the first floor and second floor, but outside of the home, I have quite a bit of stairs. So, when I bought this home, my age started with the number two. I wasn't thinking about when I'm 70. So, yeah, these are all things to think about.
Yeah, and a really great conversation that we've had. And I feel like we may circle back and talk about something else in addition to this on the next time we do this financial podcast. I like this the way that we did it this time, as a podcast. I can't speak for Lisa. We'll talk off air, but I really like the format of having this as a podcast, because I feel like I can say things and not feel self-conscious being on camera. I feel like I've spoken more freely and comfortably with the camera off. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and that this is going to give you guys some things to think about for yourself, for your family, and for your older self, because that's what's so important. So, Lisa, I want you to tell everybody before we go, tell them about your upload schedule, your live schedule, and all of those things, and where people can reach you on social media.
I'm not the greatest with the schedule, but please just subscribe, hit that notification bell. I try to go live every Sunday afternoon. And, I put out content, I have a niche on my channel. I stick to investing and all money related topics for us to be on track to build wealth for ourselves and our families. So, yeah, just check out my channel, put on that notification bell. Um, and there is a link tree on my page that can bring you to, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, my email's there, affiliate links that you can support are there. And I also have channel membership. So I'm here to support.
Yes. And I'm telling you guys, go and check out Lisa's playlist for so many things that I don't think about. And I go over to Lisa's channel and I go, oh, I haven't thought about that. I need to get on that. You'll be so glad that you did. So check out her videos, her lives. She gives great information to get you thinking and keep you focused and on track. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this live stream. Go over and check out Lisa J. Stock's channel and her other platforms that she has mentioned, and check her out tomorrow um, on her live stream. Okay, and thank you so much, Lisa. Any final words that you want to say?
Let's make our older selves proud of us and make changes today that will matter for us tomorrow. That's it.
Yep, I love that, Lisa. And my final words is think about how you can love yourself in the next 20 to 30 years. You'll thank yourself. You will thank yourself because of your planning, because of your diligence, your consistency. You'll thank yourself later. Right now it may be a huge sacrifice. It may make you feel uncomfortable, but we're not going to stay ignorant. And at the end of the day, you have nobody to blame but yourself later on. So let's make some wise decisions. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Shout out to the Mods family. Shout out to the channel members, to all of my wonderful motivators family. And of course, check out Lisa J. Stocks. She's going to have a live stream tomorrow and her other uploads. I would appreciate if you guys could tap in over there and check her out. You'll love it over there. Thank you, Lisa.
Bye.
Okay, bye bye, everybody.